The cold wind brushed against her thin sweater. Her hands were red from the chill, but she didn't rub them. She stood quietly outside a bakery, watching children inside eat warm buns and drink sweet tea. Her name was Alina. She was only 15, but she looked older, because life had never been kind. In her small hand she held a torn piece of paper. On it, just one thing was written. Milk. Milk for her younger brother Sammy, who was sick again. He hadn't eaten properly and Alina touched her pocket and pulled out a few coins. She counted them once, then again. Still not enough? She looked around and slowly walked to the small grocery store across the road. The shopkeeper was someone she had seen before. He wasn't friendly, but he didn't shout, yet. Alina stepped inside. The bell above the door jingled, weakly. She moved straight to the fridge, picked up a small bottle of milk and walked to the counter. The man looked at the milk, then at the coins she placed in front of him. Not enough, he said coldly. Alina's voice shook. Please, sir. My brother is very sick. I will come back tomorrow. I just need this milk today. The shopkeeper's eyes narrowed. This is a store, not a charity. Either pay full or leave. A few customers behind her sighed loudly. One of them muttered, just let her go, wasting our time. Her cheeks turned red with shame. But she didn't move. Please, she whispered again. The man slammed the milk bottle on the counter. Get out. Alina blinked hard to keep the tears in. Her hands grabbed the few coins. She walked out, still holding the empty paper in her hand. She felt small, invisible, defeated. She stood by the roadside, unsure where to go. She couldn't return home empty-handed. Her brother would ask, "Did you get the milk?" And she would have to lie. Just then, a black car pulled up and stopped in front of the bakery. It was large, shiny, and looked like something only seen in movies. The driver stepped out first, opening the door. From the car stepped a man in a dark gray coat. His shoes were polished, his hair neatly combed. He didn't smile. His eyes were sharp and his face looked like stone. He was clearly someone rich, powerful, untouchable. People on the street turned to look, but only for a second. Then they moved on. No one like him would ever speak to someone like her. But something inside Alina refused to stay quiet. Maybe it was the hunger. Maybe it was her brother's pale face in her mind. Or maybe, just maybe, she had nothing left to lose. She walked forward. One step, then two. The man was just about to enter the bakery. Alina ran to him. Excuse me, sir, she said, her voice trembling but clear. He stopped and looked at her. Alina's heart was pounding. She didn't beg, not for money. Instead, she said something different, something bold. Sir, I don't want money. Just a job. I need to buy milk for my little brother. He's sick. I'll work. I can clean, wash, anything you say. Just, please help me earn. The street felt quiet. The man didn't reply. He looked at her deeply, not like others did. He didn't laugh, he didn't shout, he just stared, as if thinking something serious. Alina's eyes didn't drop. She didn't back away. A moment passed, then another. Finally, the man turned to his driver and said two simple words, "Follow me." He didn't explain. He didn't smile. He walked to his car and got in. The driver opened the back door for her. Alina stood frozen. What had she just done? Was this a mistake? Where was he taking her? She turned and looked at the bakery behind her, then back at the car, and with a deep breath, she stepped in. Alina sat quietly in the back seat. The car was warmer than anything she had felt in days. The leather seats were soft and a faint smell of fresh flowers floated in the air. She didn't know where to look or what to say. The man who had told her to follow him sat beside her, staring out the window. He hadn't said a single word since she got in. His face was still calm, cold, silent. Alina kept her hands folded in her lap. She felt her heartbeat in her throat. "Where are we going?" she finally asked, her voice soft. The man turned his head slowly and looked at her. Not angry, not kind, just studying her. "You said you want to work," he replied. Alina nodded quickly. "Yes, sir, I can do anything. Clean floors, wash clothes, serve tea. Please, anything. I just need to buy milk. My little brother. He raised his hand slightly. Don't speak unless I ask. Her lips sealed immediately. The driver made a turn. The streets outside changed. The small shops and worn-down buildings disappeared. Now there were tall trees, big houses, and shiny gates. Alina pressed her fingers against the glass. She had never been to this part of the city. It looked like another world. After 10 more minutes, the car slowed down and turned into a large driveway. The house in front of them was huge, like a mansion from a dream. White walls, big windows, a garden so clean it looked fake. The car stopped. The driver stepped out and opened the door for her. Alina hesitated. Get out, the man said calmly. She stepped out, her feet almost unsure on the smooth stone path. The man walked ahead. She followed quietly. 2 large wooden doors opened. Inside, everything sparkled. Chandeliers above, marble, floors below. Servants in clean uniforms moved quietly through the halls. One of them stared at her worn-out shoes. The man didn't stop walking. Alina hurried behind him. They entered a room with a long dining table. A woman in a black dress stood. Inside, holding a notepad. This is her? The woman asked, raising one eyebrow. The man nodded. Test her. Test? Alina's eyes widened. The woman walked up to her and said sharply, Follow me. The next hour was hard. She was told to clean a hallway, fast, then dust a bookshelf, without breaking anything, then sweep a kitchen she had never even dreamed of working in. Her hands moved quickly, her back ached, but she didn't complain. She didn't stop, not even when her fingers began to shake from the cold water. After it all, the woman wrote something on her notepad and left without a word. The man returned a few minutes later. Did you steal anything? He asked suddenly. Alina's eyes went wide. No, sir, never. I would never do that. He watched her face closely, then he asked, Would you? What? If your brother was dying and there was no other way, would you steal? She looked down. The question stung. Her mouth opened, but she didn't answer. After a long silence, she whispered, No. I would beg first. He nodded. Slowly. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a card. Take this, he said. She looked at it. It was a bank card. Her hands trembled as she took it. What is this? Go to the grocery store down the road. Buy food. Milk, bread, whatever your brother needs. Alina's mouth dropped open. But I didn't do anything yet. I haven't earned. Oh, you've earned a test, he said. Come back tomorrow, 6 in the morning. You'll work, real work. She held the card like it was gold. Thank you, she said softly, eyes full of tears. But just before she turned to leave, he added something else. One rule. She stopped. Never lie to me. Alina nodded slowly. I won't. The man didn't smile. He just turned and walked away. Outside the mansion, she held the card tightly. The wind was still cold. But her heart was warm. She didn't know who the man really was. She didn't know what kind of job she was walking into. But one thing was clear. Her life had just changed, and she didn't know if it was for better or for worse. Alina woke up before the sun. Her little brother was still asleep, holding the warm milk she had bought the night before. His tiny face looked peaceful for the first time in days. She kissed his forehead, wrapped herself in her old sweater, and stepped out into the cold morning. The card the man gave her was still in her pocket. She kept touching it, afraid it might disappear. By the time she reached the mansion, the sky was just beginning to turn orange. She stood outside the gates, unsure if she should knock. Before she could, the gate opened on its own. A guard stepped out silent and nodded. She entered. The house looked even bigger in the morning light. The windows sparkled. The garden smelled of fresh roses. Everything was quiet. Still, she stood by the door waiting. Suddenly it opened. The same woman in black from yesterday appeared, still holding a notepad. You're early, she said without smiling. Alina nodded. I didn't want to be late. The woman didn't respond. She turned and walked in. Alina followed. You'll clean the west wing today, the woman said. No talking, no resting, no excuses. Alina nodded again. The hours passed slowly. She dusted long shelves, swept endless hallways, and polished stair rails until her hands were red. No one spoke to her, no one smiled, but she kept working. By noon, her stomach was growling. She hadn't eaten since last night, still she didn't stop. Then, while scrubbing a large window, she heard footsteps. She turned. It was him, the man in the suit. The billionaire. He stood there watching her silently. She froze, unsure what to say. He walked forward, picked up a glass from a nearby table and handed it to her. Water. She stared at it. Drink, he said. Her fingers trembled as she took it. Thank you, she whispered, and drank it all in one breath. He watched her closely, then said, You didn't ask for breakfast. I didn't think I could, she replied honestly. He nodded slightly. Come. She followed him through a long hallway into a different part of the mansion, one she hadn't seen before. The walls were full of paintings. One caught her eye. It was a portrait of a little girl, holding a flower, smiling. She paused. Is that your daughter? The man stopped walking. He stared at the painting for a moment. No, he said softly. That was my sister. Alina's eyes widened. She looks kind. She was, he replied, until someone took that kindness away. Alina didn't ask more. His voice was cold again, hard. They entered a dining room. A servant brought out a tray of food, eggs, toast, fruit. Sit, the man said. Alina hesitated. Sir, I can't. I said sit. She obeyed. It was the first real meal she had seen in days. He didn't eat. He just watched, as she took. Slow bites, trying not to look greedy. He asked a strange question. If someone gave you everything you ever wanted, what would you do? She stopped chewing. Looked up. Everything? She repeated. Yes, food, money, a home, safety. She thought for a moment. I would give my brother a good life. And then, I would help someone else like me. He leaned, back in his chair. Most people say they just enjoy it for themselves. I'm not most people, she said quietly. A long pause followed. Then he stood up. You'll keep working, but I'll pay you weekly. Enough to feed your family. Tears filled her eyes. Thank you, sir. But he raised a hand. No emotion, no trust, not yet. She nodded as she got up to leave. He said one last thing. Every day you'll be tested. She turned. Tested how? He looked at her with cold, unreadable eyes. To see if you're as good as you say. Alina arrived early again. The mansion gates opened the same way, without a word. But something felt different today. Colder. Heavier. As she stepped inside, she noticed the woman in black was not waiting at the door. Instead, a new maid with short hair and sharp eyes handed her a note. Go to the library. Do not speak to anyone. Alina followed the directions carefully. She had never been in the library before. The moment she entered, her breath caught. The room was massive, walls lined with books from floor to ceiling. Tall windows let in soft morning light. A fireplace crackled quietly in the corner. In the center of the room stood the billionaire. He didn't greet her. He just pointed to a table. On it were 5 sealed envelopes. He said, Each one of these has something about me. Some true, some false. Alina looked confused. Why are you showing me this? Because trust, he said coldly, must be earned with truth. She hesitated, then picked the first envelope. Inside, a photo. Him, much younger, in a hospital. A girl in the bed beside him. My sister? She asked softly. He nodded. She died because of someone we trusted. Alina said nothing. She opened the second envelope, a newspaper article. Businessman involved in missing funds scandal. Her eyes widened. Is this real? He said nothing, just looked at her. She opened the third. It was a letter, handwritten. You're not like, them. I see something good in you. But can good survive in this house? No name, no date, just fear in the words. Alina looked up. Who wrote this? Still, no answer. The fourth envelope contained a key. Old, rusty, with a red ribbon tied around it. What's this for? The man finally spoke. There's a room in this house. It's locked for a reason. One day, I may ask you to open it. Alina's heart pounded. And the last envelope? She asked. He looked at her closely. Open it when you feel ready. But not before. She placed all the items back on the table except the key. He gestured for her to keep it. You're not just here to clean, he said. You're here to prove something to me and to yourself. That day, Alina worked quietly, but her mind raced. Who was this man? Why all the secrets? And most of all, what was behind that locked door? That night, as she walked home, she saw the same black car again, parked silently, engine off. She paused, looked at it. The window rolled down slowly. A woman with red lipstick smiled coldly. You've changed him, the woman said. But people like you don't stay in mansions. They get thrown out. Alina's heart skipped a beat. Who are you? The woman leaned closer. I used to stand where you do. I know how this ends. Then the window rolled back up and the car drove away. At home, Alina found her brother asleep again. But this time, there was something under his pillow. She reached for it, a small card. Stay out of the room. Some doors open to things you can't handle. It wasn't signed. She looked around, suddenly afraid. Someone had been inside, while she was gone. Her hands shook. But then she remembered the key, in her coat pocket, and the words the billionaire said. One day I may ask you to open it. Alina stood frozen outside the open door. The key was still in her coat pocket. But the door, the one the billionaire told her never to enter, was wide open. She glanced down. The empty hallway. The silence was thick. Not a single sound, not even footsteps. Inside, the room was dark. No lights. Just the dim glow from a single window covered by heavy curtains. Still, something was breathing. Slow, steady, heavy. Her hands trembled as she stepped in. The air was colder than the rest of the mansion. She whispered, "Hello?" No answer. Her eyes slowly adjusted to the darkness. There was a hospital bed, machines, a beeping monitor, and lying there, connected to tubes, was a young boy. Pale, still, maybe 10 years old. He looked like her brother. Alina's heart thudded hard. She turned to leave, but someone blocked the door. It was the billionaire. His face was unreadable, cold, but his voice was soft. You weren't supposed to come here. Not yet. I didn't open the door, she whispered. It was already open. He nodded, slowly stepped beside her. That's my son, he said, voice low. He's been like this for 3 years. Alina looked at him in shock. But you never said. I don't say many things, he interrupted. Then he looked at her. You remind me of his mother. Her mouth went dry. Where is she? Gone, he said. By choice. Alina stepped closer to the boy. His chest rose slowly. What happened to him? A mistake, the man said. One I made. I trusted someone I shouldn't have. There was deep pain in his eyes now. I don't trust people anymore, he continued. But I gave you a key. That meant something. But I didn't use it, she said. I didn't open the door. He nodded. That's why I believe you. He paused, then asked something strange. If you had opened it, what would you have done? Alina looked at the boy. I would have sat with him. I know how it feels. To be forgotten. Silence fell between them. Then the billionaire said quietly, Come, there's something else you should see. They walked down another corridor, this one leading to the basement. At the bottom was a metal vault door. He typed a code. The door clicked open. Inside, rows of boxes, papers, photos. Everything about me, he said. Every secret, every lie, every truth. Why are you showing me this? She asked. Because you're the first person who didn't run after seeing that room. Alina walked slowly inside. One photo caught her eye. It was the woman in red lipstick, the one who warned her in the car. She came to my house, Alina whispered. She told me I'd be thrown out. The billionaire's jaw tightened. She's my ex-wife. Alina's heart dropped. She said she stood where I stand now. She lied. he said. She was never poor. She never begged for a job. But she did betray me, and left our son like that. Alina felt a mix of fear and anger. Why are you keeping her close? I'm not, he said. But she's watching always because she knows what I gave her is slipping away. Alina stared at him. And what are you giving me? He looked at her deeply. Something I never gave anyone, hope. That evening, Alina returned home. Her brother smiled when he saw her. You brought my favorite bread again. She hugged him tightly. But her mind was racing. That door. That boy. That vault. The truth. Then she remembered something. The last envelope. The billionaire told her not to open it until she was ready. She pulled it from her bag and stared at it. Her fingers shook as she opened it. Inside was a single sentence. If you're reading this, you've already changed everything. And under that, a small card with an address. She had never seen it before, but she knew what it meant. The next chapter was waiting. The sun had not yet risen when Alina knocked on the mansion's front door. But no one answered. She waited. Knocked again. Still, silence. Something was wrong. The guards were gone. The lights were off. The air felt wrong. Finally, she reached into her coat and pulled out the ring the billionaire had left for her. She pressed it to the scanner on the side wall. The lock clicked. The door opened slowly. The house was a mess. Furniture tipped over, curtains torn, drawers open. Alina stepped inside carefully. Her footsteps echoed through the silence. Hello? She called out. Only her voice answered her back. Then she heard a faint noise upstairs, a door closing. Quickly, she ran up the stairs to the forbidden room, the one with the sleeping boy. The door was slightly open. She pushed it, heart pounding. He was still there on the bed, breathing softly. David and Sarah's new alliance had brought hope, but also fear. After Sarah's confession, David knew he could no longer stay quiet. The truth about Michael's death was buried in lies and danger. That very night, David sat alone in his mansion, thinking deeply. His heart ached not only for his son, but for the secrets Michael had tried to protect. Suddenly, a soft knock came at the door. It was his trusted friend and lawyer, Mr. Jacobs. David, we need to be careful, Mr. Jacobs warned, his voice low and serious. Michael's death is not an accident. Someone powerful is involved. David nodded, his jaw tight. I won't stop until I find the truth. Meanwhile, Sarah faced her own dangers. Her small neighborhood suddenly felt colder. Strange cars drove slowly past her house. Unknown faces watched her every move. Sarah was scared, but she would not give up. She kept writing in her notebook, adding every detail about that night and the people who threatened her. It was her way to protect the truth. One evening, David and Sarah met again in a quiet cafe. Michael was trying to expose a secret, David said softly. A secret that could destroy some people's lives. Sarah looked around nervously. I overheard a conversation the night Michael died. Men talking about stopping him. David's eyes narrowed. We are closer than ever, but we must be careful. If they know we are searching, they will try to stop us. That night, Sarah received an anonymous message on her phone. Stop digging or you'll regret it. Her hands shook as she read the words. David called her immediately. Are you okay? Did you get the message? Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. Yes, but I'm not afraid. David smiled sadly. Good. We will face this together. The days that followed were filled with tension. David hired private investigators, and Sarah continued to gather her memories and notes. One night they found a new clue, a hidden video from the night of the accident. It showed the car losing control, but also a shadowy figure moving quickly near the scene. David's heart raced. This was the proof they needed. But now the question was, who was the shadowy figure, and how far would they go to keep their secret? The video was proof. David and Sarah could finally see what had happened the night Michael died. The shadowy figure was fast, moving close to Michael's car just before the crash. But the video was blurry, and they couldn't see the face. David felt a mix of anger and fear. Someone had tried to kill his son, and now they were after Sarah and him. David hired more security. He didn't want to lose anyone else. Sarah stayed inside her small home, always looking over her shoulder, but she refused to hide. One afternoon, while walking home from the market, Sarah noticed a black car following her. Her heart pounded. She ran through narrow alleys, but the car stayed close. She called David immediately. "They're after me." David's voice was calm but firm. "Stay where you are. I'm sending help." Sarah didn't wait. She ducked into a crowded street and disappeared into the crowd. The car slowed, then turned and drove away. David breathed deeply when he heard Sarah was safe, but the chase was only beginning. That night, David and Sarah met at a safe house. David showed her the video again. "We need to find out who this is," he said. Michael deserved justice. Sarah nodded, determination in her eyes. "I will help you, I promise." They worked together, looking through the names Michael had written down and the faces Sarah remembered. Slowly, a name appeared again and again. Mr. Bennett, a rich businessman with many enemies. David's face darkened. Bennett was jealous of Michael's success. He wanted to ruin him. Sarah looked down, scared. "Do you think Bennett planned the accident?" David clenched his fists. "I don't know yet, but we will find out." The next day, David sent his private investigators to watch Bennett closely. But Bennett was careful. He didn't make mistakes. David and Sarah knew they had to be smarter too. Late one evening, Sarah found a secret letter hidden in Michael's diary. It was from Michael to David. The letter warned, "Trust no one. The truth is closer than you think." Sarah showed the letter to David, his eyes filled with tears. "We are close," he whispered, "but we must be ready for anything." David and Sarah's search for answers had brought them closer to the truth, but also closer to danger. Every day they learned more about Mr. Bennett's dark plans. He was not only jealous of Michael, but he was also involved in illegal deals that Michael had discovered. One evening, David's private investigator called with urgent news. "We have proof," the investigator said. Bennett arranged the accident to stop Michael from exposing him. David's hands trembled. "We need to act fast," Sarah agreed. "We must tell the police, but we must be careful. Bennett has powerful friends." David contacted a trusted Detective Harris, who had a reputation for honesty and courage. At a secret meeting, David, Sarah, and Detective Harris planned their next move. "We will need solid evidence to bring Bennett down," the detective said. "This video you found combined with your information will help," David nodded. "We want justice for Michael." Sarah looked at David and said, "We also want to protect others from suffering the same fate." The next days were tense. They gathered all evidence and prepared to confront Bennett. But Bennett was not waiting. He sent threats to David's mansion and tried to intimidate Sarah's family. One night, Bennett's men tried to break into Sarah's house, but David's security team stopped them just in time. David and Sarah realized the danger was bigger than they thought. Finally, the day came to meet Bennett face to face. In a courtroom filled with reporters and cameras, David and Sarah told their story. They showed the video and the evidence of Bennett's crimes. Bennett tried to deny everything, but the proof was too strong. Slowly, Bennett's world started to fall apart. David felt a mixture of sadness and relief. His son's death was finally being honored with the truth. Sarah smiled, tears in her eyes. Michael's courage saved us all. As the courtroom doors closed behind Bennett, David looked at Sarah. "Thank you," he said softly, "for helping me find the truth." Sarah shook her head. "No, thank you. Michael's story needed to be heard." But deep inside, both knew their lives had changed forever. The courtroom was quiet now. Bennett was gone, facing justice for his crimes. David finally felt a small peace settle over his heart. The painful journey to find the truth about Michael's death was over, or so he thought. Sarah stood beside him, smiling softly. She had become more than just a helper. She was now a true friend. "We did it, David," she said gently. Michael's voice was heard. David nodded. But deep inside, a shadow of sadness still lingered. Days passed and life slowly began to heal. David spent more time at his son's favorite park, remembering the happy moments. Sarah returned to her simple life, but something had changed in her too. She had found courage she never knew she had. One afternoon, David invited Sarah to visit the mansion garden. "I want you to have something," he said, handing her a small box. Sarah opened it carefully. Inside was a key to a small cafe David planned to open in the town where Sarah lived. "This is for you," David said. "A place to start fresh, you've earned it." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, David, this means more than you know." The cafe became a symbol of hope for both of them. A new chapter after so much pain. But as they celebrated their small victory, David couldn't shake a feeling. Late one night, he found an old, folded letter hidden in Michael's desk. It was not a warning this time. It was a message of hope. Live well, love deeply, and never stop fighting for the truth. David smiled through his tears. He knew Michael's spirit would always be with them, and no matter what shadows still waited, they would face them together. But now there was a figure standing next to him, the woman in red lipstick, her ex-boss, the billionaire's ex-wife. She turned slowly, smiling. "You shouldn't be here," the woman said calmly. Alina stood tall. "Neither should you." The woman walked closer. "Oh, I have every right. I was married to him. I gave birth to that boy." "You left him," Alina said firmly. "You left both of them." The woman tilted her head. "Did he tell you that?" Alina didn't answer. "Men lie, darling," the woman said sweetly, "especially ones with power." Alina's hands clenched. "He trusted me. Then he's a fool." The woman stepped closer. She reached into her purse and pulled out a document. "This is the real reason I came back. I still own half of everything." Alina's eyes widened. "He gave me control," she said. "He left everything in my hands." The woman laughed. "That's cute, but without him here, what proof do you have?" Alina slowly pulled out the note he left her, the one with his signature. "The one that said, 'Protect my son.'" The woman's smile faded. Then, in a flash, she lunged at Alina, trying to snatch it. They struggled. Papers flew. The boy's monitor beeped faster. Suddenly, he stirred, not fully awake, but his head turned slightly. The woman froze. "No, not now," she whispered. Alina stared. "He's waking up." Tears filled her eyes. The boy's lips moved. One word. "Dad?" The woman ran. Alina chased her down the hallway, but the woman was fast. She escaped through the back gate into a black car waiting outside. Gone. Later that night, Alina sat beside the boy. He was still asleep, but different, more peaceful. As if he felt something had changed, she held his hand. "You're not alone anymore," she whispered. Then she called the private number the billionaire had left her. But no answer. The line was dead. She tried again the next day, still nothing. 3 days passed. The mansion was too quiet. Then one morning, the main gate buzzed. Alina looked at the screen. It was a lawyer. He entered with a folder and a message. "Was instructed to deliver this after 7 days if he didn't return." She opened the folder with shaking hands. Inside was a video. She played it. The billionaire appeared on screen, his face tired, eyes heavy. "If you're seeing this, I've either failed or I've chosen to disappear for good reason. My past isn't clean. There are people who want me gone, but I needed someone to protect what matters most. That someone is you, Alina." He paused. "You didn't ask for money. You asked for work. You never took anything that wasn't given, and when you had the chance to run, you stayed." Tears streamed down her face. "Everything I have, my house, my company, my name, is now under your care. And if my son ever wakes up, tell him I never stopped loving him." The video ended. The lawyer handed her a final document. "Sign here, and everything becomes yours legally." Alina stared at the paper. Her hand hovered over the pen. Then she asked the lawyer, "Can you make one change?" He raised an eyebrow. What kind? She said quietly. Make it in his name, the boy, not mine. The lawyer blinked in surprise. You'd give it all up? Alina smiled faintly. It was never mine to take. Cliffhanger. That night, as Alina placed the documents in the vault, the alarm rang. She rushed to the screen. It wasn't the woman this time. It was a man, tall, hooded, and armed. And behind him was the billionaire's ex-wife, smiling. The real fight was just beginning. Alina locked the vault with the documents. She had just handed over everything to the boy's name, trusting the future to him. But before she could rest, the alarm blared. The screen showed two figures at the gate. One was the billionaire's ex-wife, wearing her red lipstick and a cruel smile. The other was a tall, masked man in black, armed and dangerous. Alina's hands shook. They were back, and this time they weren't just here for money. They were here to take it all. Inside the mansion, Alina pressed the emergency button. Security systems locked the mansion down. Steel shutters fell over windows. Lights flickered red, but she was alone. No guards, no help. She ran upstairs to the boy's room. He was still sleeping, his chest rising and falling gently. I'll protect you, she whispered, placing a soft kiss on his forehead. She turned and went back downstairs. Then boom, the side door exploded open. Dust and smoke filled the air. The man in black stepped through, gun raised. Alina ducked behind a table. The woman followed behind, laughing softly. Oh, Alina, you should have taken the money and left, she said. Alina's voice came strong from behind the furniture. You left your own child, and now you want to steal from him too? The woman snarled. He was a mistake. His father cared too much. The man moved forward. Where's the vault? Alina didn't answer. She needed time. She grabbed a small remote from her pocket, one the billionaire had once handed her. If you're in real danger, press this. She pressed it. Nothing happened, or so she thought. The truth revealed as the I saw. Man approached. The lights in the house suddenly shut off. Silence. Then a loud voice came from the speakers. Put the gun down. The woman gasped. Impossible. The man turned in shock. Alina's eyes widened. She knew that voice. It was him, the billionaire. He had never left lights turned on again. From the shadows, the billionaire walked into the room, alive, tired, bruised, but very much real. He stared at the woman. I knew you'd come back, he said coldly. And I knew you'd bring help. The man raised his weapon, but the billionaire was faster. He threw a small device on the ground. It exploded in white light. The man screamed, blinded, and dropped his gun. Guards rushed in from the back. Hidden. Security Alina never knew about. They pinned the man down. The woman tried to run, but Alina blocked her path. No more running, Alina said firmly. The woman screamed as guards took her away too. The explanation. Later, the billionaire sat with Alina in the library. I faked my disappearance, he said. I had to. The threats were getting worse. I knew she would come for the boy, and I couldn't protect him out in the open. Alina listened, still shocked. I left everything in your hands because you earned it, he continued. Not with money, with heart. Alina looked away, tears in her eyes. I thought you were gone forever. I watched everything, he said softly. Even when you chose to give the company to my son, I saw it all. The awakening, a soft knock came. At the door, a nurse stood there smiling. He's awake. Alina and the billionaire rushed upstairs. The boy was sitting up in bed, confused but alert. Dad? The billionaire dropped to his knees beside the bed, tears falling. I'm here, son. I'm here. The boy looked around. Where's the nice lady? Alina stepped forward, smiling through her tears. She never left your side. He held out his small hand to her. Alina took it gently. 1 year later, the mansion was filled with laughter and sunlight. The boy was healthy, running through the garden. The billionaire and Alina sat together watching him play. She now ran the foundation that helped other poor families. Milk, food, jobs. No one left behind. The boy called out, Come play with me. Alina smiled and stood. The billionaire watched her with quiet pride. She asked for a job to buy milk, he whispered, and she ended up saving everything. Final scene. That night, a new photo was placed on the mansion wall. It showed 3 people, a little boy, a kind girl with hope in her eyes, and the man who trusted her more than anyone else ever had. Under it was a small plaque,